I want to give out a sincere apology to one of the greatest players I ever learned about in Hakeem Olajuwon. Way back, I did a video on Hakeem that I really feel like I didn't get the true essence of his greatness because I was rushing just to get a video out, and I want to apologize to that because that's disrespectful to his greatness. My apologies, Mr. Olajuwon, and I'm here to make back up for it by showing you, in my opinion, your most iconic moment. And yes, more iconic than the 94 season MVP. It is June 14th, 1995. The Houston Rockets had just swept the young Orlando Magic to win their second championship in their franchise history, going back-to-back. But how? The team finished with a 47-35 record, which was the sixth best record in the Western Conference, and an 11-game drop-off from when they got the chip the year before, as they had a 58-win record, the second best record in the entire league. So how did a 40-win, 6-seeded team become the lowest seed ever to win a championship? To understand the context of this, we got to give you the backstory of this conference final series matchup and the individual matchup between two of the greatest and most talented bigs of the era. One who will obviously become victorious and have one of the most iconic postseason series ever, while the other will unfortunately face the lowest moment in his legendary career. And this pick sums it up perfectly. The Dream versus the Admiral. The Rockets had some personal struggles in the first half of the season and needed a change if they wanted the chance to repeat as champions. So they traded their second best player and big man Otis Thorpe to acquire the league's best shooting guard due to the GOAT not being in the league, and Clyde the Glide Drexler. He would finish the season averaging 21 a game, while Hakeem would finish with averages of 28 points, 11 boards, and 3 blocks a game. Meanwhile, in San Antonio, the Spurs would put up their best season in their franchise history at that time. They will finish with a 62-20 win record, the best in the entire league, winning their division and conference. Despite all the negative attention that he had, Dennis Rodman will be a valuable contribution to them, leading the league in rebounding for the 4th season in a row and made 3rd team All-NBA. And as for the Admiral, he will go on to have arguably his best season of his career, averaging 28 points, 11 boards, 3 blocks, and nearly 2 steals. For his legendary efforts, he will make the All-NBA first team and be rewarded the league's most prestigious individual award, the Most Valuable Player. With the type of season they both had, and again, due to the absence of the GOAT, everyone wanted to see the matchup of these two talented bigs, as they were clearly two of the best in the world. But with the type of seasons the teams had, it was unlikely, as the Spurs were expected to go all the way as the favorites, and the Rockets, despite being reigning champions, were underdogs and not expected to repeat. But then, the unlikely happened. The Spurs would do what a 1 seed does and take care of business, defeating the Nuggets and the Lakers in their route to make it to the conference finals. Meanwhile, the Rockets, which surprised everyone, upsetting the 60-win Jazz with Stockton and Malone and the 59-win Barkley-led Suns, who they were down 3-1 against. And then the matchup that seemed unlikely became inevitable. Here we are, two of the best bigs in the game, two of the best in the world, of course due to the absence of the GOAT, looking to battle it out to personally prove who was the better of the two, while fighting to punch a ticket to lead their team onto the biggest stage for NBA supremacy. And this picture sums up what the end result would be, as once the ball got tipped up, the Dream proceeded to make the Admiral look like a low-ranked foot soldier, as David literally couldn't do anything to stop Hakeem, as Hakeem had every move in his arsenal, moves that David never seen in a big before. As for Game 1, Olajuwon went to work, scoring 27 points, 6 assists, and sending back 5 Spurs shots while shooting 50% from the field. As for D-Rob, it was a night he would love to forget, as he scored 21 points off of 29% shooting from the field with 7 turnovers, as the Rockets won 94-93 taking a 1-0 lead in the series. But if you thought that was cold, let me give you insight to what happened next, as it will forever be embedded in the mind of basketball historians. May 24th, 1995, the day of Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals, and the day of the reward ceremony for David Robinson winning the MVP. And when the Admiral gave his speech, it happened in front of everyone in attendance of the Alamo Dome. And guess who had a front row seat? The Houston Rockets and their league reigning MVP, who just dominated David the game before. And let's just say, David would make a mistake he would go on to unknowingly regret. Don't really believe me? Here's inside the NBA analyst and former Rocket, Kenny Smith.
That was the night. The night that he didn't acknowledge Akeem Olajuwon. David mentioned every player but Dream. And we're playing, and I said to Dream, I'm like, that doesn't make you bad? No, Kenny, he deserves it. Then after the game, he had like 46. He goes, I'm going to his house to get my MVP.
Within that speech, in that glorious honor that the Admiral rightfully deserves, he proceeds to throw shade at the Dream by not acknowledging him at all, not once. But it's fine. If David didn't acknowledge the Dream before, he was going to acknowledge the Dream forever, especially after this game. Hakeem will go on to put up a 41-point, 16-board performance, shooting 18 of 31 from the field, as Robinson will have somewhat of a bounce back, putting up 32 and 12, where most of his points came from the free throw line, hitting 12 of 14 free throws, as Houston would take a series commanding lead 2-0 heading back to the city. And at one point in this game, Hakeem proceeded to show David who was the real MVP when they were isolated at the corner of the baseline. Despite a 43-point, 11-board performance in Game 3, the Rockets will proceed to drop both home games as the Spurs had an all-around contribution from their players, as in Game 4, they blew out the Rockets by 22 points, where Hakeem struggled, shooting 38% from the field, giving the Spurs some momentum heading back home in San Antonio. And just as you thought, he learned his lesson from before. The Admiral opened his mouth again and proceeded to say this about you can read it yourself. And as he has done countless of times already, the Dream will proceed to make the Admiral eat his words with a 42-point near triple-double of 9 boards and 8 dimes, and a 21 blowout of the Spurs on their home floor to go up 3-2. And to put a cherry on top, Dream would put up 39 points, 17 boards, and 5 blocks off of 64% shooting from the field, taking down the top-seeded Spurs to secure the team's spot in the big stage for the second consecutive time in a row, limiting the league's fresh MVP to 19 points off of 35% shooting from the field, sending him back home to the Dome in shock. The Dream was an actual absolute nightmare, outperforming the MVP in all games but one, averaging 35 points, 13 boards, 5 assists, and 4 blocks, as David averaged 24, 11, 3, and 2. This will go on to help Hakeem cement his legendary legacy as one of the greatest and unique talents ever. As for David, it will leave a black mark for his legacy, as despite of his greatness, it added on to his postseason misfortunes, as he wouldn't lead the team to glory as their best player. As told when he finally did get one, a young Tim Duncan was the face of the franchise. 2 greats, but one reigns over the other as the best of the era.